Hey guys, how is everybody? I hope you're well. Ain't that the cutest little soul? I'm gonna do something I normally don't do. When I buy a new saw and decide to go into it and port it, I typically like to get a little more run time on them than this has had. This has had about an hour of run time. I think it's a pretty good sound saw, but boy is it lazy. It just is what it is. It's meant to do what it's doing, I guess. It is a little Craftsman 42cc. They are like a pro chassis saw. You can just tell running it. It is choked up. It ran about dead even with a bone stock 170. There's video on the channel. And the 170 had a longer bar on it, so, you know, if that tells you anything. And this thing has 12 cc's on the 170, so there's room for major improvement, I think, with just doing the very simplest of modifications. It's my wife's saw. She bought it for herself. I'm not trying to build a race saw out of it. That's what I'm getting at. But I do feel we can get a little more performance out of it than we have now. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go out back. I've got a piece of hickory in the stand. It might be 10 inches. I'm not going to measure it. You can just judge by the length of the bar, I guess. Hard as a rock. About all you'd want to cut with this little saw. Not saying you can't cut bigger, but just saying it ain't gonna like it either way. But we're gonna make a cut, probably one cut to clean it out, then make another cut, pick the fastest time from those two cuts, and I'm gonna come in here, I'm gonna pull it down. I'm not gonna video it all. It looks super simple to work on. Once I get it pulled down, get a port map done, then I'll bring you guys back and give you an idea of what's going on, show you what I've done, and we'll kind of go from there. Okay guys, here's where we're at with the base gasket pulled. 28 thou on the squish, 114 on the exhaust roof, 136 on the uppers, and 67 on the intake. Typical with a small, you know, homeowner saw. I'm sure they meant for this to be for the homeowner. I mean, it's got a true catted muffler. I'm sure there's even ceramic in it if you tore it apart, because when it was cooling off it would sit and tick like a converter on a car. And I got it pretty damn hot. I made a bunch of cuts. The very last two I'll pull the times from. I'd say the last cut was probably the quickest. The muffler is like super choked up. Where is it laying at? And weighs a freaking ton. Gotta do things backwards to get it to come up on the camera monitor. That little bitty hole is all it has to breathe through. And that's after it goes in, down, through the cat, and back out. That muffler probably weighs 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds. I'd about bet on it. I'll probably just straight shot it out. The front of it, it's got a deflector. It'll be just fine for what we're doing. I will say, if you get one of these, you check and squish, check it all around. Don't just run the solder in from the front or on the sides. It's got a D-shaped chamber. It has a domed piston. Take a bunch of readings and do it carefully. But it's pretty consistent, like between 28 and 30 thou to the back, where the largest part of the chamber is at. And this is an angled cylinder. It's tilted toward the front. You usually only see that on older vintage stuff, and usually they're tilted back, to be honest with you. Kind of first time I've dealt with this, but I've kind of got an idea of where I'm going with it. I don't really want to take anything away from it, but I don't really want to run a 114 roof either. There's a little step in the top of the exhaust port. I'm probably going to measure that and get it taken out, and it does have a full circle piston. It is a quad port design, but they're open port. Has a super tiny intake port, but there ain't a lot I can do with it because of the impulse. Let me just pause you guys and pull this thing off. Okay guys, so give you a look at the cylinders. You can see it's quad port, it's open port, kind of put you in mind of a 200T cylinder, but 200T cylinder actually has a little better port layout. This intake looks bigger than it is. It is like super choked down on the inside of the cylinder, and the impulse feed is just directly below the intake port. So to get my intake timing, I'm going to have to pull the piston and notch the bottom of the piston. That's fine. I don't have a problem with doing that at all. We have a big D-shaped, not a big, but we have a D-shaped combustion chamber. Maybe you can see what I'm talking about. That band's just all over the place anyway. It's not very even at all. You get different readings all around it. But I recommend going in, making a hook, and checking your squish off the back of that band. That's where I was getting the tightest readings at. And again, it's kind of all over the place, all around it. I mean, it's I think this saw's 160 bucks by 165 or something. The exhaust port, there's a step in the roof of that port. We're going to measure that and probably take it out, and I think it's going to put me somewhere where I want to be as far as the timing. We'll go from there. I'm kind of undecided exactly on what I'm going to do with it. I don't want to take a lot from it, but I'd like it to be a little faster than it is. That exhaust has got to get out of there to make power. You know, with duration that narrow, it's just not going to happen. I don't want to raise it real high either and lose a bunch of compression. I wanted to check compression, but it uses a freaking 10mm spark plug. Take that into consideration if you're buying one as well. And I didn't have an adapter here, or I may have, just couldn't find it to actually check compression on the saw. It's an easy start, so you know, we could do machine work and jack it up, but again, the transfer's open super late. There's no way possible without blowing through that you could raise them back to where I think they would need to be. So I don't know, I think we're just going to stick to my less is more approach on this, like we normally do, like I've talked about in many other videos. I don't want to take anything away from it. It starts easy, it idles good, it runs good. It just needs a little more oomph and a little more RPM, so that's the approach I'm going to go with on it. But I don't know how much more I'll get done this evening, probably little to nothing, but I'll bring you guys back once I've got something figured out. Port work, raised uppers, quite a bit honestly. No machine work. If I would have had to raise the uppers so far, probably would have cut through the cylinder, and I wasn't going to make a mandrel and chuck it up for like 5,000 squish, which is as far as I would have took it anyway. It's a domed piston at 28 thou. It'll be just fine. Exhaust port, honestly, it ended up moving it quite some bit further than I thought it was going to, but whatever, it is what it is. That step around the port needed cut out of it, in my opinion, for it to perform the way I want it to perform. Intake port done a lot there. Well, this stuff ground pretty fast. If you're doing one of these, I'd recommend using diamond abrasives. There's something of the sort, cause it cuts pretty daggone fast. I opened that intake up quite a bit. I didn't pull any timing out of the intake. I put a half moon notch in the bottom of the piston to get the port timing where I thought it needed to be. As far as numbers, we'll see. We'll just see how it pans out, how it runs, and if I decide to share them or not. But anyway, hopefully the next thing we see is maybe the muffler mod. Holy shit, guys, what a difference we've made here in one afternoon to this little saw. I've got to kind of wrap this up pretty quick. I'll start with the carburetor. You've got to have one of these specialty screwdrivers to adjust it. It's got some of the funniest jets in it I've seen, but luckily I have carb tuning kits here and we had the proper tuning screwdriver. I didn't do an ignition time in advance. We may do that at a later date. I don't know. It's pulling pretty dang good right now, and it's kind of popping back a little bit after you shut it off, so it could have quite a bit of advance in it from the get-go. The muffler, it was a nightmare. I started off by drilling like a half-inch hole through the front of it, behind this deflector, and through the baffle plate in the back, and found out that there was like a big cage with a bunch of that mesh screen. It's a freaking nightmare to get out, but we finally ended up fighting around with it and getting it out. Just a half-inch hole in the baffle plate, like I said, so it's not like it's running straight out. There's still adequate back pressure to it. It's still getting not as hot as it was before, but it's still getting pretty warm to the touch. How much of a difference did we make? Who knows? I'll have to find out when we get into the computer and the editor, but me watching the videos here on the camera, it's a pretty good dang difference. Running it, it's like daylight to dark difference. How long it'll last, I don't know. It all seems to be built really well, like really well. If they had this manufactured in China, they found a really, really good distributor to make the parts and build these saws. As far as timing numbers and stuff, we're pretty good daylight to dark difference from where we started. I ended up having to grind more on the exhaust port to get the shape I wanted and get it the way I wanted, to where I felt that it would flow good enough and get the gases out to increase the power on the saw. It seemed to work. It's like I said, it's like a daylight to dark difference running it. I'll get in here and get on the editor, see what kind of performance increase we made. I'll probably just make it the title. And I'll get my math right this time. The last Craftsman, it was late, I was tired. Put some numbers in backwards, and there was a bunch of you guys let me know about it. There's a couple of you really cool about it, but trust me, there was some guys let me know about it, so I had to re-edit the whole video. Just simple mistake, but that's where we're at, guys. Muffler mod, base gasket delete, simple woods port. Could you machine it? Yes. Would it benefit? I don't know how much. I'm sure a little bit, but moving squish from 28 down to 25, 22 or something, or even 20, you're probably not even going to notice a bit of difference in the cut. If you went in and cut the band, cut the base back, it's going to throw your transfers so far out into the left field, you're going to be forced to run longer blowdown on it. Be one of them deals where it would probably need fingers in it, need a bigger carb. That's a discussion for another day. I don't even know if we'll get into, but anyway, you guys let me know what you think. Get the wife a hold of it in a day or two and see what she thinks about it. But the only thing I've got to look back to idling down, it's still where it was at stock, and it's evidently breathing a lot better now. But high idle don't really bother me. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Y'all stay safe. Have a great day.